My name is Khloe Whitaker. I'm 32 years old, and for nearly 10 years, I was the person my family called when something was falling apart. I worked as a regional emergency supply coordinator for a medical network in Ohio, which meant my entire job was solving problems before they became disasters. Missing equipment, delayed shipments, hospital shortages, urgent vendor calls. I handled pressure for a living. So maybe that was why my family decided pressure belonged to me too. At dinner that night, I sat at the end of my mother's dining table while everyone laughed around roasted chicken, sweet potatoes, and the same family stories I had heard 100 times. I had paid for the groceries. I had fixed the oven 2 days earlier. I had quietly covered the overdue electric bill so the lights would stay on for that perfect little family meal. And then my mother lifted her glass, turned toward my younger brother, and said, "Now that's the real success of this family." Everyone smiled. My brother leaned back like he had been waiting for the crown to touch his head. I looked down at my plate and said nothing. Not because I had no answer. Because in that moment, I finally had one. For years, I had reviewed his loan paperwork, rewritten his business plans, covered rent when his big ideas failed, and answered midnight calls when he needed someone responsible to clean up the mess. But that night, while my mother praised him like he had built an empire alone, he didn't correct her. He didn't even look ashamed. He just smiled. My mother added, "Some people are born to lead and some people are just steady." The table went quiet for half a second, just long enough for the insult to land. I felt something inside me go cold. Not broken, not angry, just clear. I placed my napkin beside my plate, looked at my brother's proud face, and thought, all right, if he's the success, then let him handle success without me. Before I tell you what he said and what happened after I walked out, tell me what time is it for you right now, and where are you watching from? I'm curious to see how far this story will travel. I didn't storm out right away. That would have given them something easy to talk about. Khloe is emotional. Khloe can't take a joke. Khloe always makes things about herself. So, I stayed still, folded my hands under the table, and let the conversation continue. My mother, Rebecca Whitaker, kept praising my brother Jason like she was reading from a script she had written in her head years ago. Jason has vision. She said, Jason takes risks. Jason isn't afraid to dream bigger than this family ever did. My father, Thomas, stared into his glass the way he always did when he knew something unfair was happening, but didn't want to pay the cost of saying so. Jason tapped his fork against his plate and laughed. "Mom, you're making me sound better than I am," he said. But his grin told the truth. He loved it. He loved being the golden son, the brave entrepreneur, the family's shining proof that Whitaker could become something important. What nobody mentioned was that 3 of his risks had been quietly rescued by me. The first time he opened a meal prep delivery startup and forgot to calculate refrigeration costs. I spent 2 weekends rebuilding his budget so the landlord wouldn't sue him. The second time he tried selling imported workout equipment online and got buried under shipping delays. I called vendors during my lunch breaks until the refund threat stopped. The third time he launched a small fitness studio with more confidence than planning. And when payroll was short, I sent money from my savings so his employees would not walk out. None of that appeared in my mother's toast. In her version, Jason climbed mountains. I was just the ground beneath his shoes. Then she looked at me and said, "Khloe, you understand stability, but Jason has that spark. That's what separates ordinary from successful." Ordinary. The word sat between us like a knife placed gently on the table. I glanced at Jason, waiting for him to say one decent thing. He could have said, "Khloe helped me." He could have said, "I wouldn't be here without her." He could have said anything. Instead, he shrugged and said, "Everybody helps family. That's normal." I almost laughed. Normal? Was it normal that I had skipped vacations because Mom needed help with property taxes? Was it normal that my credit card carried charges from Jason's software subscriptions? Was it normal that I had turned down a relocation opportunity in Denver because my mother cried and said, "Your brother needs you close right now"? I looked around that table and saw every invisible receipt of my life. The repaired roof, the hospital COA, the emergency car payment, the storage unit Jason forgot to cancel, the birthday gifts my mother signed her name on even though I bought them. And suddenly, I stopped feeling desperate to be seen. I realized something more powerful. I could become unavailable. My mother kept talking, her voice warm and proud. Jason's studio expansion is going to change everything. Investors are already interested. My eyes moved to Jason. His shoulders stiffened for half a second. There it was, a crack. I knew that expansion plan because I had reviewed the first draft, and it was a disaster. He wanted to open a second fitness studio in a neighborhood he had not researched with equipment he had not priced correctly, using revenue projections that looked like they had been written by hope instead of math. 3 weeks earlier, he had asked me to take one quick look. I had spent 4 hours making notes and told him he needed to slow down. He ignored me. Now Mom was praising it at dinner like it was already a success. "Khloe," she said suddenly, "you'll help him polish the investor packet, won't you? Just to make sure it looks professional." There it was. The crown for him, the work for me. Jason didn't even ask. He just lifted his eyebrows like my agreement was already printed. I felt my fingers tighten around the stem of my water glass. Then I smiled, calm enough to surprise myself. "No," I said. The room changed. My father finally looked up. My mother blinked. Jason's grin slipped. "What do you mean?" "No," Mom asked, as if the word had come from a stranger. I placed the glass down carefully. "I mean, Jason is the real success of the family. He has vision. He takes risks. He leads. So he doesn't need me." Jason let out a short laugh. "Don't be dramatic." I turned to him. "I'm not." My voice was soft, but it landed harder than yelling. "I'm stepping back." Mom's face tightened. "This is not the time for bitterness." I pushed my chair back. "No, Mom. This is the first time I'm not bitter. I'm clear." I stood, picked up my purse, and walked toward the hallway while everyone sat frozen behind me. My mother called my name once, sharp and embarrassed. Jason muttered something about me being sensitive. I didn't turn around. Outside, the cold air hit my face, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel abandoned. I felt released. The first 2 days after that dinner were quiet, and quiet scared me more than shouting. I expected my mother to call immediately, maybe to demand an apology, maybe to explain why I had embarrassed Jason, maybe to remind me that family loyalty mattered more than pride. Instead, nothing. I went to work Monday morning, walked into the supply coordination center, and handled a regional shortage of surgical gloves with less anxiety than I usually felt opening my family group chat. That told me everything. I could manage hospitals, vendors, weather delays, and emergency routes across 3 counties. But one message from my mother could still make my chest tighten like I was 16 again. Around noon, Jason texted, "You done being weird?" I stared at the message for a long time. No apology, no acknowledgement, just irritation because his tool had stopped working. I didn't respond. An hour later, another message came. "Seriously, I need that investor packet cleaned up by Friday." "Then, Khloe, then don't make this a thing." I locked my phone and went back to work. That evening, I drove to the Riverside walking trail instead of going straight home. It was cold enough that my breath fogged the air, and the path was nearly empty. I walked past the benches where I used to take Jason when he was in high school and wanted advice about college, girls, jobs, anything. Back then, I thought being needed meant being loved. I thought if I helped enough, one day they would understand what I was worth. But what do people call you when you stop being useful? Selfish, cold, ungrateful. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a voice message from Jason. Against my better judgment, I played it. "Look, I don't know what your problem is, but I have people waiting on this. You know the numbers better than I do. Just fix the spreadsheet and send it back. We can talk about your feelings later." My laugh came out once, dry and quiet. My feelings, years of unpaid labor, reduced to feelings. I deleted the message. The next day, Mom called while I was reviewing transport schedules. I let it go to voicemail. Then she called again. Then she texted, "You need to stop punishing your brother." Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Maybe I hurt you." Just a command. I typed one sentence and sent it before I could talk myself out of it. "I'm not punishing him. I'm letting him do what you said he could do." She didn't answer for 3 hours. When she finally did, her message was short. That was cruel. I sat at my kitchen table that night with a stack of old folders spread in front of me. It was not planned at first. I had opened one drawer looking for tax documents, and somehow I found the paper trail of my invisible life. Copies of wire transfers, receipts from repairs, emails from Jason with subject lines like urgent and need your brain, and can you save me real quick? I found the first business plan I had rewritten for him. My comments filled the margins. Reduce expense assumptions. Confirm lease terms. Do not sign before legal review. He had ignored half of it and survived only because I stepped in later. Then I found the Denver offer letter. I had not looked at it in 4 years. The salary was higher than anything I had made back then. Relocation paid leadership track. A life that could have been mine. I remembered my mother crying on the phone, telling me Jason was fragile, Dad's health was uncertain, and the family needed me nearby. I stayed. Jason opened a gym. Mom called him brave. I folded the letter slowly and put it in a separate envelope. Something inside me was changing from hurt into evidence. By Friday morning, the panic began. Jason called 6 times before 9 a.m. His texts turned from annoyed to desperate. "The investors want updated financials. I don't know what version is right. Can you at least tell me which file you used? Khloe, please." At 10:17, my mother texted the family group chat. Everyone pray for Jason today. Big meeting. I almost typed pray for his math. Instead, I put my phone face down and continued working. That afternoon, while coordinating a delayed shipment of pediatric supplies, I saw Jason's name flash again and again across my screen. I didn't pick up. I let him handle it. After all, he was the success. The investor meeting failed so badly that my mother called me before Jason did. I was in a grocery store standing in front of a shelf of laundry detergent when her name lit up my phone. I answered because some old reflex still lived in my hand. "Khloe," she said, and for once her voice did not sound commanding. It sounded thin. "What happened?" I asked, though I already knew enough. She inhaled sharply. "Jason's meeting went terribly. They asked questions he couldn't answer. They said his numbers didn't match his lease obligations. One of them asked who prepared the first projections, and Jason said he had help before, but was finalizing things himself." I closed my eyes. There it was. He had used my earlier work as bait, then walked in with his own fantasy numbers and expected reality to be polite. "That sounds like something he needs to correct," I said. Silence. Then my mother's real voice returned. "The one shaped like guilt. He is your brother." I looked at the detergent bottles lined up by scent and size. Absurdly neat compared to the mess pouring through my phone. "I know who he is." "Then act like it," she snapped. "You have always been good with these things. You know, contracts, budgets, suppliers, all that complicated language. He needs you." "Mom." He needed preparation before the meeting. He needed honesty before signing anything. He needed consequences years ago. Her breath shook, but not with sadness, with anger. "Do you hear yourself? You sound heartless." I gripped the cart handle. "No, I sound tired." "Tired?" she repeated. "Do you think I was never tired raising you both? Do you think family only matters when it's convenient? Jason could lose everything. The old me would have apologized by then. The old me would have abandoned the grocery cart, driven to Jason's studio, opened his laptop, fixed his mess, and hated myself quietly later. But that old me had been left at the dinner table beside a cold plate. "What exactly do you want me to do?" I asked. My mother exhaled like she had been waiting for the question. "Come to the house tonight. Bring your laptop. Look over his files. Call whoever you need to call. Just get him through this." I let the silence stretch. "No." She made a sound like I had slapped her. "Khloe." "No," I repeated. "I will not rebuild his proposal. I will not call his investors. I will not put my name near documents." I didn't approve. "So, you're going to watch him drown?" No, I said. I'm going to stop pretending I'm the reason he never learned to swim. For a moment, all I heard was the grocery store music overhead, cheerful and ridiculous. Then my mother lowered her voice. Your father is worried sick. I'm worried sick. Jason has barely eaten. Is this what you wanted? That one hurt. Not because it was fair, but because she knew exactly where to press. What I wanted, I said slowly, was for someone to say thank you before everything collapsed. What I wanted was for you to stop calling him the only success while I was holding the floor under his feet. But you didn't. So now he gets to stand on his own. She whispered, I don't recognize you. I swallowed hard. That makes two of us. I'm just starting to. I ended the call with my hand shaking. Then I stood there for nearly a minute, surrounded by ordinary people buying ordinary things, while my heart pounded like I had committed a crime. But boundaries feel like crimes when you were raised to confuse obedience with love. I finished shopping. I went home. I cooked dinner for myself. I did not open Jason's files. At 11:42 that night, he sent one message. You have no idea what you just did. I stared at it, then typed back. Neither did you. That was the problem. He didn't respond. By the following week, everything Jason had hidden started coming out. Not all at once. That would have been cleaner. Instead, the truth arrived in pieces, each one uglier than the last. First, one of his trainers quit because paychecks had been late twice. Then, a landlord's notice appeared on the studio door. Then, a local vendor posted in a small business group warning others about unpaid equipment invoices. My mother forwarded me screenshots like each one was a medical emergency. Can you believe people are attacking him publicly? She wrote. I stared at the message and thought they are not attacking him. They are describing him. But I didn't say that. I had learned that some truths become weapons when spoken too early. On Wednesday, my father called. That was rare. Dad preferred silence the way some people preferred coffee. Khloe, he said quietly, your mom is beside herself. I sat on my couch, laptop open, work reports waiting. I'm sorry she's upset. Jason made mistakes. Yes, he sighed, but losing the studio might ruin him. I closed my laptop. Dad? He signed contracts he didn't understand. He inflated numbers. He ignored warnings. If losing the studio ruins him, maybe the studio was never stable. My father didn't defend him immediately, and that pause told me he knew. Your mother thinks you're trying to teach everyone a lesson. I am, I said. My own honesty surprised me, but not the lesson she thinks. What lesson is that? I looked at the envelope on my coffee table, the one containing years of receipts and old emails. That I was never the family backup plan. I was a person. Dad was quiet so long I thought the call had dropped. Then he said, I should have said something at dinner. The words landed softly, almost too late to matter, but not too late to hurt. Yes, I said. You should have. He didn't argue. After we hung up, I cried for 10 minutes. Not because I wanted to go back, but because finally hearing one honest sentence made me realize how long I had lived without them. That Friday, my manager called me into her office. For one terrifying second, I thought family chaos had somehow leaked into work. Instead, she offered me the position I had been quietly working toward for 2 years, Director of Regional Readiness, more responsibility, better pay, and the authority to build a new emergency response team across the state. You're calm under pressure, she told me. You see problems clearly. I almost laughed at the irony. At work, clarity got me promoted. At home, it got me called cruel. I accepted the offer. That evening, I bought myself dinner at a small restaurant downtown. Not a celebration with balloons or champagne, just a quiet table, warm food, and the strange peace of choosing myself. Halfway through the meal, Jason called. I let it ring once, twice, 3 times. Then I answered. His voice was rough. I'm losing it. I didn't speak. He continued faster now. The investors pulled out. The landlord wants payment by Monday. Brandon quit and took 2 clients with him. The equipment company is threatening legal action. Mom says you have documents from when you helped me before. I need them. Not. Can you help me? Not, I'm sorry. I need them. Those documents were drafts. I said they were based on conditions you changed. Don't talk to me like a lawyer. Then don't ask me for evidence. He cursed under his breath. You're enjoying this, aren't you? There it was, the accusation I had expected. If I refused to burn for him, I must be smiling at the fire. No, I said, I'm grieving the fact that this is what it took for you to notice I was ever involved. His breathing changed. For 1 second, I thought he might understand. Then he said, You think you're better than us now because you got some fancy promotion. I froze. Who told you? Mom. She said, Maybe now you'll stop acting like helping family makes you poor. I put my fork down carefully. Something inside me locked into place. Jason, listen to me. I am not sending files. I am not calling investors. I am not loaning money. I am not explaining your choices to people you misled. His voice cracked, but anger still held it together. Then what am I supposed to do? Tell the truth. He laughed bitterly. That's your big advice? It's the only thing you haven't tried. Silence. Then quieter, he said. If I lose everything, that's on you. I looked around the restaurant at people talking, eating, living lives that had nothing to do with my family's storm. For the first time, his threat did not move me. No, I said. For once, it's on you. I hung up before he could answer. The confrontation happened on a Sunday afternoon, 3 weeks after the dinner, where my mother crowned Jason the family's only success. She didn't invite me this time. She ordered me. Come to the house, her text said. This has gone too far. I almost ignored it. Then I looked at the envelope of receipts, emails, transfers, and old contracts sitting on my desk. I realized I did not need to defend myself anymore, but I did need to end the argument they kept rewriting. So I drove to my parents' house with the envelope on the passenger seat. The same house, the same front porch, the same brass wreath my mother put up every season, like decoration could make a family warm. When I walked in, Jason was standing in the living room, unshaven, pale, wearing a hoodie from his own studio. My mother sat on the couch with red eyes and a tissue twisted in her hand. My father stood near the fireplace looking older than he had 3 weeks before. Finally, Mom said, No hello, no warmth, just accusation. We need to fix this. I set my purse down. No, Mom. You want me to fix this? Jason stepped forward. The studio is done if I don't get money by Tuesday. His voice shook, and for the first time the golden shine was gone. The landlord changed the locks on the second location. The first location is barely operating. People are talking online. I had to shut off comments. My mother looked at me like I was supposed to collapse from guilt. He could lose his home. I nodded slowly. That's serious. Serious? She snapped. That's all you have to say? Jason's face twisted. I need $35,000. The number hit the room like a dropped plate. My father closed his eyes. My mother looked away, which told me she already knew. No, I said. Jason laughed once, wild and disbelieving. You didn't even think about it. I thought about it for 10 years. Mom stood. How can you be so cold? He is your brother. He made mistakes. Yes, but you have always been the responsible one. That is not a compliment, I said. My voice stayed steady. Not from you. She flinched. Good. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because truth should touch the people who spent years avoiding it. Jason ran both hands through his hair. I'll pay you back. You still owe me from the payroll shortage 2 years ago. He looked startled. That was different. I opened the envelope and pulled out the first document. $3,800. You said it was for 2 weeks. You never paid it back. I placed the paper on the coffee table. Then another $4,200 for equipment storage. Another $600 for software subscriptions. Another $900 for legal review you said was pointless until you needed it. My mother stared at the growing stack. Why did you bring all this? Because every time I tell the truth, you call it bitterness. So I brought paper. My father moved closer, reading silently. His face changed. Jason looked furious at first, then trapped. You kept records, he said, like I had betrayed him by remembering. Yes, I said. Responsible people do that, Mom whispered. Khloe, this is humiliating. I looked at her. No, Mom. Humiliating was sitting at your table while you praised him for work I helped carry. Humiliating was being called ordinary by the woman who called me every time extraordinary effort was required. This is documentation. Jason's knees seemed to weaken. He sat down hard on the edge of the couch. I didn't know it was that much. Because you never had to know, I said. I knew. I always knew. My mother began to cry then, but not the soft kind of crying that asks for forgiveness. It was angry crying, cornered crying. So what now? You want us to beg? Jason looked up at me, and to my shock, he actually slid forward, elbows on knees, voice breaking. Please, Khloe, I'm begging. I don't know how to get out of this. I thought I could handle it. I thought if I looked successful long enough, I'd become successful. For one moment, the room became painfully quiet. There he was. Not the golden son, not the visionary, not the family's proof of greatness. Just my brother, terrified of the life he had built on borrowed competence. The old Khloe moved inside me like a ghost. She wanted to sit beside him. She wanted to say, "Give me the laptop." She wanted to make the fear stop, but I had buried her for a reason. I will not give you money. I said, I will not lie to your investors. I will not erase the consequences. Jason covered his face, my mother whispered. Then why did you come? I pulled out the final paper, a list I had made the night before. Because I will give you one thing, not rescue, a path. Jason looked up. I placed the list on the table. Bankruptcy attorney, small business debt counselor, employment contacts at 2 logistics warehouses, hiring operations supervisors, a template for a public apology to clients and vendors, and a repayment schedule for what you owe me. Not because I need the money immediately, but because you need to learn what accountability feels like. Mom recoiled. You want your own brother to work in a warehouse? I turned to her. I want my brother to work. Jason stared at the list like it was written in another language. And if I don't, then nothing changes, I said. Except I won't be there to soften the fall. My father picked up the repayment schedule. This is fair, he said quietly. My mother spun toward him. Thomas. He shook his head. No, Rebecca. It is. That was the second honest sentence I had heard from him in 3 weeks. My mother sat down as if her legs had given out. Jason took the list with trembling hands. I picked up my purse. One more thing, I said. Do not call me ordinary again. Ordinary people don't keep families alive in silence. Then I walked out, leaving the papers on the table like a mirror they could no longer avoid. 6 months later, the family house looked smaller than I remembered. Maybe the house had not changed. Maybe I had. I parked across the street and sat for a moment with my hands resting on the steering wheel, watching the upstairs window where Jason used to tape posters of athletes and business quotes when we were teenagers. Back then, he dreamed loudly. I planned quietly. Somehow, my quiet planning had become his safety net, and his loud dreaming had become the family religion. That afternoon, I was not there to fight. I was there because my father had asked me to come for a final meeting before my parents sold the house. They were not homeless. They were not destroyed beyond repair. But consequences had arrived like winter. Slowly at first, then everywhere. Jason's studio closed. The second location never opened. The landlord sued, then settled. 2 vendors accepted payment plans after Jason issued public apologies and admitted he had expanded beyond his capacity. That apology cost him pride, but it saved him from worse. He deleted the old photos where he posed beside equipment he had not fully paid for. He took a job supervising inventory at a warehouse outside Columbus. The first month he hated it. The second month he stopped complaining. By the 4th he was sending payments, not large ones, but real ones to the people he owed, including me. My mother did not handle it gracefully. For weeks, she called me cruel in messages I did not answer. Then she stopped calling. Pride can be loud, but loneliness is patient. My father told me she had started attending counseling after realizing Jason avoided her calls too. Not because he hated her, but because he finally understood that her praise had been another kind of pressure. She had loved him like a trophy, and trophies crack when held too tightly. I walked up the front steps and rang the bell instead of using my old key. That mattered to me. My mother opened the door. Her hair was shorter. Her face looked tired. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she stepped aside. "Come in, Khloe." No sharpness, no command, just my name. Jason was in the dining room, sitting at the same table where everything had begun. He stood when I entered. He looked different in a plain work shirt and jeans. No expensive watch, no branded studio hoodie, no performance of success. "Hey," he said. "Hey." My father brought coffee nobody really drank. The house was full of half-packed boxes, family photos wrapped in newspaper, shelves empty except for dust outlines where decorations had been. It felt strange to see the physical shape of an ending. My mother sat across from me and folded her hands. "I owe you an apology," she said. The sentence sounded rehearsed but not false. "For dinner?" I asked. Her eyes filled. "For years." Jason looked down at the table. My father remained still. My mother continued, each word difficult. "I made you responsible because you were capable. I praised Jason because I was afraid he would fall apart without it. I told myself you didn't need encouragement because you were strong. But that was just another way of neglecting you. I wanted those words to erase everything. They didn't. Real apologies do not travel back in time." They arrived late carrying a broom, asking where to start cleaning. "Thank you for saying that," I said. My voice was calm, but my hands were cold. Jason cleared his throat. "I'm sorry too." He reached into a folder and slid a paper toward me. It was a payment record. Every transfer he had made so far, every remaining amount listed. "I'm not asking you to forgive me today. I just wanted you to know I'm taking it seriously." I looked at the paper. The numbers were smaller than the damage, but they were honest. "Good," I said. He nodded, swallowing hard. "I used to think you made things look easy because they were easy for you. Now I know you were just carrying more than anyone saw." My mother covered her mouth. I looked at Jason, and for the first time I did not see the boy I had to rescue. I saw a man standing at the beginning of a harder, better life. "I hope you keep going," I said. "I am," he replied. Then my mother said the thing I did not expect. "I don't want money from you. I don't want favors. I just wanted to ask if there is any way we can rebuild something." The old version of me would have rushed to comfort her. The new version did not confuse compassion with surrender. "Maybe," I said, "but not the way it was." She nodded quickly like she had expected worse. "I understand. No emergency calls asking me to fix Jason's life. No insults disguised as compliments. No rewriting history. No family dinners where I pay for the meal and disappear from the story." My father said, "Agreed?" Jason nodded. My mother whispered, "Agreed." I stood after that. Not dramatically. No speech, no slammed door, no final punishment. Just a woman leaving before she could be pulled back into a role she had outgrown. At the doorway, my mother touched the edge of a box filled with framed photos. "There's one of you from your director announcement," she said. "Your father printed it." I looked at the photo. I was standing beside my new emergency response team, wearing a navy blazer, smiling like someone who had finally stepped into her own life. "Keep it," I said. "But don't hang it because you're proud of me now that Jason fell. Hang it because I was always worth seeing." She cried. Then quietly I let her. Outside, the air smelled like rain. Jason followed me to the porch. "Khloe," he said. I turned. I really did think success meant everyone believing in me. He looked embarrassed by the confession. Now I think maybe it means becoming someone people don't have to rescue. For the first time in years, I smiled at him without resentment. That's a better start. I drove home to my apartment. Not the biggest place, not the fanciest, but fully mine. My promotion had become real. My savings were recovering. My evenings were quiet. Sometimes quiet still felt unfamiliar, but no longer scary. I learned that love without boundaries becomes labor, and labor without recognition becomes resentment. I learned that helping someone is not the same as carrying them. And I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back and let people meet the consequences waiting for them. My family did not magically become perfect. Jason still struggled. My mother still slipped into old habits sometimes. My father still had years of silence to repair. And I still had moments when guilt knocked on the door. But now I didn't invite it in just because it knew my name. I had spent years being the invisible structure holding everyone else up. When I finally stepped back, everything broke. But not because I destroyed it. It broke because it had been leaning on me the whole time. And once the dust settled, I saw the truth clearly. I had not abandoned my family. I had returned responsibility to its rightful owners. So tell me, have you ever been the steady one everyone used but nobody celebrated? And if you were Khloe, would you have stepped back sooner? Behind every story we create, my team and I are working hard to be scripts that be emotional, meaningful, and worth remembering. This is a fictional revenge story made only for entertainment and educational purposes, with the hope that every viewer can take away a lesson about dignity, self-respect, and the courage to walk away from toxic people.